Okay, this is a continuation of lesson 3. A bag of candy contains 300 pieces, of which 28% are red. How many pieces are red? Which quantity represents the whole? That quantity would be 300. Okay. Which of the terms in the percent equation is unknown? That would be our part. And it says define a letter or variable to represent that unknown quantity. That would be our letter X would represent our part. It says write an expression using the percent and the whole to represent the number of pieces of red candy. Our percent as a decimal would be 0.28. Our candy would be 300. That would be our whole. And then it says write and solve an equation to find the unknown quantity. To write and solve that equation, as always, we do P, percent, and W. So our part we used for X, and let me move this up so that we can see that. So our part we chose for X, so that is X. Our percent again is 0.28. Our whole is 300. So we use our formula, P equals percent times W. Our part is X. Our percent is 0.28. And our whole is 300. So when I multiply that together, we get 84 candies that are red. Okay. Going to the next page, we have a bag of candy that contains the 300 pieces, of which 28% are red. How many pieces are not red? It says write an equation to represent the number of pieces that are not red, and use N. Use your equation to find the number of pieces of candy that are not red. Well, if 28% is red, we can use that and say, okay, well, 100% minus 28 is therefore 72% that are not red. So to use our equation, we can say P, percent, and W. So our P is still N in this case, and our percent is now 0.72, and our whole is 300. So using our formula, or P equals percent times whole, we can have N equals 0.72 times 300, which then would be 216 candies. Are not red. Then it says Jalil told his math teacher that he could use the answer from example 3 and mental math to find the number of pieces of candy that are not red. Explain what he meant by that. Well, he could take the 84 that are red and subtract that number from 300 to get the 216 that are not red. Now, the rest of these examples, we are going to be finding different parts of the formula, whether it be P, percent, or W. So the rest of these, here we go. Zoe inflated 24 balloons for the decorations in the middle school dance. If Zoe inflated 15% of the total number of balloons inflated for the dance, how many are there total? So in this particular case, we've got part, percent, and whole. Here, our part or our whole is the total. So that is X. That's what we are looking for. Our percent is 15%. Remember, you got to change that to a decimal, which is 0.15. And our part is 24. So using our formula, part equals percent times whole. And again, just replace. P is 24. Percent is 0.15. And W is X. And then we solve our equation. So our equation at this point is then going to be 24, or divide both sides by 0.15. These two cancel and we have X. When you divide 24 by 0.15, we get 160, which is the total number of balloons. Okay. Our next example, we have two left. Our first one is Haley is making admission tickets to the middle school dance. And so far she's made 112 tickets. And her plan is to make 320 tickets. Okay. It says what percent? You should always be circling three things. Should always be circling three things. Of the admission tickets has Haley produced so far? Solve the problem using our percent formula. So again, all of these will be using the same formula. So we've got our part, our percent, and our whole. Our whole is 320. Our percent is what we are looking for, so that's our X, and our part is 112. So using our formula, we've got part equals percent times whole. Our part is 112. Our percent is X, and our whole is 320. So dividing both sides by 320, these cancel. We have X on this side, which is what we want. On this side, we have 0.35. Now remember, this is a decimal. We've got to change it to a percent. So we're going to move it over, and we have 35%. Our last problem, we've got to be careful here because of what it's asking for. It says Brad puts 10 crickets in his pet lizard's cage. After one day, Brad's lizard has eaten 20% of the crickets he had put in the cage. By the end of the next day, the lizard ate 25% of the remaining crickets. How many crickets were left by the end of the second day? So here we've got to actually do this 2 times. So the first one, we have part, percent, and whole. So we have 10 crickets, that's our whole. They ate 20%, which is 0.20. And we need to know how many they ate. So we have part equals percent times whole. We have X equals 0.20 times 10. And again, remember, you can drop the 0, that's okay. But when we multiply that, we get 2. So that's how many that the lizard ate. So we need to subtract that from 10. That's how many he would have left. So 10 minus 2 equals they have 8 crickets left. and that's the first day. So the second day, we have P, percent, and W. So we have 8 to start off with on that second day, and they ate 25%, and we need to know how many they ate the second day. So we have P equals percent times whole. So we have X equals 0.25 times 8, which equals, again, 2. So again, we've got to subtract that from 8 because this is how many the lizard ate. So 8 minus 2 equals 6 crickets left. For the second day. And this ends the lesson for lesson 3.